Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial from Druu. Today we're going to go over how to make clothes for FiveM. Now, I learned how to do this process about 2 years ago. I've gotten a lot better at it since, and a lot of tools have been updated as well. I personally, on my journey to figuring all of this out, found out two things. One, it seems to be pretty gate-kept. And I feel like there's a lot of wrong information out there about how to do this. I see a lot of videos saying that you need to have 3ds Max to be able to do this, which, I mean, from my personal experience, is not true at all. You only need Blender and the Solums toolkit. I'm going to go over all the tools I use personally in a second. But yeah, as for all of my tutorials, it's always true. I'm going to assume you have some basic Blender knowledge. I'll try my best to explain as I go, but don't be afraid to leave a comment. I'll try to get back at you. I am a university student, so I don't have that much time. That's a lie. I have more than enough time. I'm just bad at answering comments. So, for the tools you're going to be needing, I use Blender version 4.0.2 because I like to use the most up-to-date Blender. I also believe Solum's Blender plugin, the current version, most up-to-date one, is only compatible with versions above 4, I believe. And you're going to be needing CodeWalker. I will show you how to get CodeWalker, the most up-to-date version. For the texturing, I use the decrepit old version of Photoshop they gave away for free a couple of years back. But honestly, anything that can make DDS, so different versions of the DDS file, and can edit alpha layers should technically work. Don't quote me on that. I know GIMP should work just fine. Materialize is what I personally use to make my normal maps. I like how they make the normal maps look, and it's a free tool that I really love to use, so that's what I will be using in this tutorial. So first up, getting CodeWalker. So I'm going to be including this invite link down here to the CodeWalker Discord. And then you just go on Discord, join CodeWalker, go on releases, download the latest version. This one I have. And yeah, that's all you need from CodeWalker. Now, downloading Solum's plugin is as easy as going on to their GitHub and getting it from here. And then I recommend going on their wiki to help installation, etc. If you can't get this version of installing it to work, you can just Google how to install Blender plugins manually. It's really as easy as going into your app data. I think it's local, then Blender Foundation, and find the right folder. Input the folder in there that has the Python code, and then just going in and then do what they do right here and enabling it. That's what I have to do because for some reason installing add-ons don't work correctly for me. So we now have all of our tools gathered. Now the most important step we have to do before we go anywhere else is we need a base body for GTA 5. I'm going to be using my own modified one for this process because I have a specific one I like to use that I have edited and modified. However, when it comes to your first time doing this, you need to obviously export it. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So the first thing I recommend is you need to go on Toby Space. Now, I can only scroll on Toby Space on Google Chrome. I also don't know if Toby Space is still the most up-to-date. I don't think it is. If anyone knows a different image gallery that has all of these showcased, please do tell. But yeah, so we're going to start off by grabbing a base lower bottom nude. Let's just take, I don't know which one of these I should take. So many options. Let us just grab this one. Alrighty then. So we're gonna make note of the full name of it, and this specific thing is always what I use. And then just go on to my CodeWalker. It's probably gonna take a while to load up the first time. Especially, always make sure you have opened up GTA 5 before Otherwise, I don't know if this would work correctly. Now, this is obviously a shit ton of them. You could try to, lower down like how many you find by like writing some of these specific code words, and not code words, sorry, full file name. But I kind of find that oftentimes I can't find the file. I just prefer searching up the rendering name and then going through them and having a look for it. Yeah, so I just double click it and look till I can find it. All right, and I believe I have found it. Now, do be careful. Sometimes when you look through these, you might go, oh, I think I found it, but actually what you're looking at is an NPC's 3D model. But yeah, let us export it. All right, so to export, turn on edit mode, right click, export XML, make a folder. I already have one. Just press select folder and it's going to export it for you. Then I go on open file location. I look for the file name and then I sort by type usually. I look for lower 002 in this case. And here we have the YTD, which is the texture dictionary. Same thing again, export XML. You're going to need a YTD that is linked to the file name of the mesh you're editing. This is going to make more sense later, but just grab it. You'll need it. Now repeat this process until you have a full nude arm. This one. Until you have your nude feet. Where are they? These ones. And I also recommend grabbing a head because you're going to need that for making sure you don't have any neck seams. Yep. Oh, and remember to get the YTD as well. Next, we're going to hop into Blender. Now, my Blender is already set up with the plugin. Just to walk you through it again though, preferences, add-ons, install, go find where you would have, or usually your downloads, where you've downloaded the Solid plugin, leave it packed unless you're manually installing it. It should work for you, it just doesn't work for me. So when we want to import a mesh from CodeWalker, we always export it as an XML. That's what we just did. Now, XML is the part where we can then import it into Blender. It says here, lovely, CodeWalker XML, but it has YDR XML, YDD XML, etc. because those are the different things you can export. You can also make animations, for example, in Blender. It's really nifty. All right. Now, let's see here. I have the body. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet is the female and male skeletons. I'm just going to include this in a zip file download in the description, but you would also find these in CodeWalker, but I don't see why you have to go through the process of finding that when I can just give it to you. But they would be named MP free mode, MPF free mode, obviously underscores and all that, 01, YFT, and for the male it's just M. So yeah, I'll just include these. Just make sure that the way you have your files set up is as follows. So this is why you have your files exported. Let me show you. We're going to take this nice and slow, don't panic. Sorry if this is a little bit messy. Okay, so this is why I exported my files. So what I, for example, got was, I got the feet underscore 001 underscore R YDD XML. And then with that, I got this folder. This is the embedded texture for that file. So GTA 5 works with embedded normal maps and specular maps. That means that a mesh always will have included inside of itself its normal map and its specular map. Those are not external. That's why we also then exported the XML for the diffuse, so the YTD, which is the texture dictionary. I will also be leaving lots of videos down below that I found to be helping me a lot. If there's anything that I don't explain very professionally, those videos probably do it better. All right. We also have the YTD XML here and its matching folder, which has the diffuse texture. Now we have these two folders and these two files here together. This is a little bit messy, I get that. Let me show you another one. I mean, this is how it would usually look. And then what you need to do is you need to be sure that you have the skeleton right here, which I'm just going to copy. And this is basically what the structure you want to have for each of your files. So you want to have the actual mesh with its embedded textures. You want to have the texture dictionary with its folder, with its file. And then you want to have the skeleton right here. I hope that makes sense. That's the setup. I'm very comfortable with this process, so I didn't really think to explain that. That's my problem. Sorry about that. So yeah, let's get importing. So I'm just going to grab this feet mesh. These are my settings. Just import external skeleton. It's important that for feet lower and upper that you have this pressed. I found that if you are importing a head, you don't actually need to import external skeleton, as far as I can see. I don't know why. I don't get it, but it's how it is. But I just leave it clicked because there's no drawback to doing it. It's important that you have import external skeleton checked though, because otherwise your meshes won't come in with their weights. Weights are related to animations. You're going to need those. So make sure you have that clicked. All right, so import code walker. And there we go. Here we have our mesh. This is just a feet, and obviously it comes with a skeleton. Now we're going to import the rest of the body. You can also do this over here on the Solemns tools, drawables, general, what was it? Yeah, import CodeWalker XML. This is just, this is the process I do because that's what I'm comfortable with. So we're going to import the lower, and we're going to import the upper, and we're going to import the head. And there we go. All right. So as we go, I'm just going to quickly show you the file structure that we are operating with. So Solemns sets it up as, this is the armature, which is the skeleton. Then you have this object. Then underneath that, you have the mesh itself, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Then on Solemns as well, we have our material. It's important that you keep this material because I find that if I delete it and if I then go into Solemns here and I add back in the shader tool, which is something we'll go a little bit over later, it doesn't work that well for me. Someone who's a lot smarter might know why. I don't know why. Yeah. Next, we have our UV maps. So they always come with 2. It's very important that we keep these names. If we don't, then we'll lose, everything. Also the same for weights. So keep those. Don't touch that. Solemns LODs are really important. So LODs, let me just show you how that works. An LOD, this is your high res model. Then you've got your lower res model, and then you've got your very low, like PS2, PS2, PS1 kind of, mesh. It's very important that we make these. Not only that we make them match what we're going to be exporting later, but it's also important that they aren't high resolution because that is going to make your mesh be really, really high stress on a server. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure everyone can have fun, right? Anyway, so I'm just going to show you real quick how I do this process. So what I do is I will take all my meshes and I will put them under the same object. That because I just want them all to be under the same skeleton, aka armature, so that we can test animations smoothly. So we'll delete those. And we go here and we make sure that the modifier here is all assigned to the same skeleton. Now don't worry the fact that it's called like the feet skeleton, that's just what it was imported as. That's not that important. And one thing we can also do is we can just join them together. This is, again, we only need this specific body to test our weights and test the clipping, etc. of our mesh. But to show you a little example of why we did this is that so we can see smoothly how the body is going to move. This thing on the head is always happening to me. I'm pretty sure I could fix that if I just imported differently. Actually, I think the way to fix that, have it actually work, is if I import the skeleton for the head. I'm actually going to test that real quick and then be back. that did seem to fix it. Again, the fact that this structure is kind of odd now, it really doesn't matter. This is just about testing. I didn't really need to do that, but I just chose to because, you know. All right, so we have our base female nude body model here. Again, when I'm actually going to be working on the mesh we're going to be converting, I'm going to be using my own custom female body that I have kind of edited, etc. But yeah, let us, yeah, we have to also, so right now it has no textures. It only has its embedded textures, which are the normal maps and the specular maps. We want some color on this though, so just go to external data, find missing file, go to the folder where you have all of the diffuse folders located, press find missing file. It's gonna maybe throw an error back at you, that's fine. And usually I find that the head mesh, it doesn't find that. I think that's because I specifically exported a different head mesh than the one that I exported the texture for that head mesh. It's not the end of the world. All you do is you scroll down to Solims, or you can go in the shading panel here, go to texture parameters, find the one where it's talking about its diffuse sampler, press here, and then you go and find the texture you wanted to use. And there we go. Easy as pie. Now she looks a little bit scary. That's okay. That's how they always look. But yeah, that's how you get your basic female body fully weighted into Blender. Now we're going to start and we're going to look for a mesh to import. Sorry, a mesh we want to convert. All right. So when it comes to finding a mesh that you want to convert, an important thing to do is always to look at the terms of use of the creator. Nitropanic is one I can think of. Don't go on their website. It's very buggy. Just go on Sims Finds or their Patreon. I think they have a Patreon. I'm not 100% sure. They specifically have conversions allowed to GTAs as long as you credit them correctly for the mesh. So if you, for example, are uploading it somewhere, if you're including it on a server's clothing pack, just make sure you make a note of who the original mesh belonged to. Sometimes I do this in the texture, hide it away in the corner where it won't actually be seen by anyone, give original credit there. Or I like to do, make a post when you update your clothing pack, or if you're uploading this somewhere like GTA 5 mods, make sure you link back to the original creator. There's lots of creators out there who actually allow conversions completely fairly. You just have to ask them first. Can sometimes take a little bit for them to get back because obviously everyone has lives. Make sure though that you are not converting from people who don't allow it, because the more you do that, the more people who do allow it are then going to be turned off the idea of allowing it. Because here's the sad truth about it. A lot of people who make clothes and conversions for GTA 5 are doing it as a livelihood, which isn't sad in itself, of course, but it is sad when you're doing it by stealing from people from Sims 4, CC creators, Second Life, etc., and selling it on Tebex. I think the biggest situation I've seen with that is I once on Tebex saw someone selling sunglasses for $15 that was, to my knowledge, from a creator who did not allow conversions. Of course, it's possible that secretly they, not secretly, but privately they established some sort of deal. I do know some CC creators for The Sims have specific FiveM creators they work together with and have permissions for, etc. But yeah, just make sure you look up people's terms of use, send them a DM on Tumblr, for example, and support original creators. Thank you very much. If you're converting from different games, by the way, with the new changes to how CFX, Rockstar, etc. handle things like copyrighted materials, so let's say you are converting something from Cyberpunk or Mass Effect or anything you could think of, do it at your own risk. Try to reach out and ask for permission for things. Just, copyright and fan creation and modding, etc. It's a complicated world to navigate, and I wish you luck. But yeah, let's pick a mesh from Nitropanic that we want to convert. Now, I already had a mesh in mind. This is the NG Duress from Nitropanic. This has actually been converted by someone before. Let me actually look it up. All right, I found it. This is the lovely Jaguda, who already converted this. Again, I'm just going to be converting it to the specific body that I made that I like to use. But yeah. Okay, so just go ahead and download this. So Sims 4 Studio is a tool we will need. I believe Sims 4 is free on the EA app nowadays because they are making Sims 4 into a most likely, I don't know, microtransaction game because EA hates its own people, I guess. But yeah. So just make sure you have Sims 4 installed, because if you don't have Sims 4 installed, you won't be getting the skeleton, aka armature, with you, which you need for if you're doing a shirt, for example. In the settings, make sure you set up your Sims 4 path, your documents path, and your Blender path. I don't remember which version of Blender. Yeah, it's a specific version of Blender. It will tell you which version. You only need that version so that you can export the mesh from a Sims 4 package. I don't use it at all for actually like working on the file, and you won't need to, and I'll show you why. So yeah, go and grab your package file with your mesh that you want. Give it a moment, and here we have it. Now, if you didn't have Sims 4 installed, you wouldn't be able to see the Sims 4 body, and that's how you would know. So yeah, to export the mesh, again, go to Meshes, Export Mesh, make sure it's level detail 0, export it, save it somewhere. If it throws errors at you and is saying like I can't do anything with this, etc., I'm just going to show you how it should look. Just call this 2 or whatever. Exporting mesh. It'll take a minute. And I believe it's going to open up the mesh, if I remember correctly, in Blender. I could be wrong. Let's give it a minute. It's taking longer than usual. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's just going to export it. And instead of don't double click that file to open it, I'll show you how to open it. And then export the diffuse textures you want. I don't grab the Sims 4 normals and speculars and all that. I've never done that because I make my own. Because that's much, much better than trying to reverse engineer these textures. So just grab the diffuse in the colors that you want. And let's head back into Blender. Okay, back in Blender, we're gonna go to File, Open. We're gonna find where we saved our mesh, not our mesh, sorry, our blend file. I saved it somewhere else, that's why it wasn't where you thought it would be. Here we go. And this is how it looks. Now, if you just double clicked it, I'm pretty sure it would open in an old version of Blender. Now, this is how Blender looks when you're using, when you're viewing a project, a blend file that's an old version of Blender. Don't get too discouraged, like the controls are a little bit different, but we're gonna be in and out of here in just a second. So I go in, delete camera, lamp, etc. I open up the rig. I delete everything from top to bottom. Sometimes the Sims 4 Studio mesh is going to be in here, so just make sure you don't delete that. And with all of this looking like this, I then press A to select everything. I save, export, and then I export as an FBX. And then I just export and save it somewhere where I can remember, like right here. That's as easy as it is. And we're going to go back to our full nude GTA 5 body, which I forgot to tell you to save, but I mean, you should, I feel like you should have figured that one out. Sorry. All right. This is my version of the female nude body. I'm kind of viewing it from far away. Real quick. You know, I can't show you the textured version. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go import FBX. We're going to find where our FBX is. Load it up, and here she is. I'm just gonna drag her down right away and make her cover up the front a little bit. Just drag her kind of into place, you know, where you'd want it to be. Then I hide the body real quick, hide the skeleton, go into edit mode, and immediately delete. I'm just pressing L to delete, to select, sorry. And we're going to delete all of the base Sims 4 body. Okay, why was that not selecting everything? I do not know. That is weird as heck. That does not usually happen. Hold on. If you ever have problems like I am having right now with figuring out which parts of this is the Sims 4 body and which part of it is your mesh that you want, all you should do is go into shading, select the mesh, go texture, image texture, drag it into color and drag it into alpha, and then go grab the textures that we exported, just any one of them, and then you're gonna be, when in textured mode, you're gonna be able to see much easier what is the Sims 4 body and what is not. Yeah, pretty easy. All right. Give me a minute and I will get this finished up. Okay, we are back with the body looking, not the body, sorry, the mesh completely free of the Sims 4 model. This is the point where I then make a new file and I name it after what I'm doing. So instead of this, it's going to be female GTA 5 NG. There we go. All right. Let's switch back to non-textured viewport and we're going to re-show the female body. Okay. Now, obviously, this isn't really sitting completely right on the body just yet, but before we go into forming the dress around the body, I am just going to go ahead and have this mesh selected, delete all the vertex groups. We don't need that old form of weights anymore. Go into the UV maps, go into this UV map for this is what all of the UV maps on GTA 5 are usually named. And then I overwrite this one with this name and I just delete this one. This is how I always do it. That's what works for me. I could also probably just, instead of doing that, I could also just, rename this one and then one, I guess. All right. So yeah, now I am also going to be doing another mesh in a minute where I showcase how to utilize the rig, so the armature here, to better pose like a shirt or something. But before I do that, I want to just show you the process of how I make clothes fit nice and snug onto the base female body. All right, let's do that real quick. So, oh, I'm in pose mode. That's why I was so confused. All right, so we're going to select the mesh. And the first thing I usually do is I go into edit mode, look at my mesh fully, and then I go into scale and I scale it to the side a little bit, to the back a little bit, like so, grabbing the different axes, and then I move it back and move it down. Please ignore that. That's my cat. He's very sweet, but he's very loud. All right. Okay. The straps are pretty much well hidden in there, so we enable the X-ray mode. We grab the straps and we go proportional editing on. Press G, make that kind of bigger, like so. And then we just pull that up. Press S to scale, and then pull that out, pull that up, pull that out, and backwards a little bit, like so, until we have something that's kind of, at the point where we want it to be. And then we edit as we go along. Now, this is just about finesse and, how well do you want it to fit, right? Like, that is always going to be up to you, how closely you want this stuff to fit on the body, I suppose. I don't know why I said it like that. How well you want it to fit, that is up to you. If you want it to be skin tight, if you want it to have a little... That's my cat. If you want it to have some breathing room, so to speak, you can. That will up your compatibility with different chests. So obviously, as you have probably been working on a clothing, on lots of different clothing packs or whatever whatever you're doing. Yeah. So if you wanted it to fit super closely to the body, you could, but if you wanted it to sort of, how do I say this? If you wanted it to be more compatible with other body mods, you could leave some breathing room, so to speak. But yeah. That looks nice, actually. I really like that. Okay, so we're gonna go into sculpt mode next. Now, I love to use sculpt mode for fitting the body. Two things. When using sculpt mode to fit a mesh around a body, I recommend only use blob and grab, elastic deform, or snake hook. All of these other ones, they're really nice, they're great, but I often find that they split the mesh. Now, what I mean by that is, let me use inflate, for example. That was a terrible example. Well, I can't really showcase it great. Sometimes when you use something like inflate or draw, it will cause the mesh to split in two. This oftentimes depends on, I can't really show it right now, can I? Oh, great. This is what we call in German the Vorführ effect, when you're trying to showcase something and it just won't work. But what will happen is it will the mesh will basically fall apart. This is, however, to do, I believe, with how if you've merged by distance, which is something we'll go over in a bit as well. But yeah. Anyway, I recommend using blob and grab. That's what I do. And specifically, I recommend using symmetry on the x-axis, so you can see here, so that you'll move the two parts in the same way. I like to have my radius relatively small. Now, the closer you go to something, the more precisely you'll be grabbing that section. If you zoom out, however, you'll be grabbing a more wide array of the section. That is pretty self-explanatory, I feel. So let us go over these different areas and slowly but surely make our mesh fit. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why don't, usually if you've been in the FiveM clothing system before, you know that we use something like hand cuts does that look weird? Nah. Hand cuts, so the upper that we exported earlier, to be able to, wear different pieces of clothing without the skin showing. But obviously this is a very skin-tight dress, which means for the best visual look, it needs to have the full upper body. That means we're going to form this so that it fits the upper body. Yeah, not much else to that explanation, now that I'm thinking about it. It's different for shirts and jackets and things that cover up your body more. But what I, in general, do is to minimize the amount of cuts, hand cuts, we're going to need. I like to always form all my meshes so that you could technically wear a full cut underneath, or so that it works with the base 15 ones that come with FiveM. That's how I like to do it, to minimize extra files that server owners have to load. Obviously, though, this is sometimes you can't really avoid it depending on the shape of a mesh. But it's one of those things that as time goes on, you will learn how to do it correctly, or rather, so that it doesn't bother you. Okay. Sometimes I will be turning off the symmetry mode when it's not needed. Like now. Switch over to blob when I feel like I need to. With blob, I just do a couple of clicks instead of holding down, because I usually find that that gives me the best universal format. And then if I find something doesn't really look that nice, go back in and format it a little bit. Now for these sort of like really specific areas, I sometimes like to go into edit mode and edit the vertices myself because I find that that gets me the best results. As you get more comfortable with using Blender, or if you're already very comfortable with using Blender, you'll kind of, I feel like every 3D model enthusiast, either professional or, hobbyist like me, kind of just has a way where they really like to do things. Like, for example, I know some creators, they really like to work with where they select faces or the lines instead of individual vertices. That's one of those growing pains, you'll make a choice yourself on that. Another thing to remember if you're, for example, converting shoes. So when converting shoes, for example, I find that I really, really like having the shoes form around the base female shoe legs. I want as much compatibility between all of the different meshes as I can. Sometimes that does mean that you can't. I can't fit all shoes to fit all the pants, for example. But so I usually strive towards having it fit stockings and the panties and hot pants in general, just because that's usually what other people use as their bases. But yeah. All right, so we've got our fully formed mesh and it looks so pretty and I really like it. This is where I would then go in and immediately notice a mistake and go back in and correct it. I very much so recommend that before going into the full process of everything, always view your mesh in the viewport shading with all the textures loaded, because it is the easiest way to notice skin poking through, etc. Alrighty then, that's it. That was forming a mesh. Now, before we do anything else, I quickly just want to load up a file and show you how to do the same process, but if we had sleeves. So give me 5 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, I am back again, showcasing how to do this, and this time for a male mesh. Let me just save that real quick before I forget. Winter Fleece is what it's called. Okay, so obviously this one has got quite the long arms. So yeah, I have already deleted the Sims 4 body parts. This is a modified male 3D model for GTA 5. So we're gonna set it somewhere where we feel like it roughly fits. I think that's a good spot right there. Actually, it should go a little bit lower. Right, let me just make that go a bit lower. Just a little bit like so. Okay, perfect. Now, as you can see, the arms are a little bit oddly positioned. Obviously, it's not the same T-pose. Now, you could go in, select this, all of it, like so, proportional editing on, select the area, and then go in and modify it like this, and then tug it in like that, and blah, blah, blah. That's just going to make your mesh look odd. That's why we imported the skeleton for the Sims 4 mesh. So it still has all of its weights, which means the skeleton and all of the parts of the body are going to move like they would, which means we can simply go in, select the bones, and then move them like so, and so, and then go to the side, see, okay, it's a little bit, forward, so we're going to move this back, and move this back as well, like this, and voila! Now you have something that you don't have to do a whole lot of editing to. Now, if I just go in and delete the skeleton, it'll revert back to its position, right? So what we're gonna need to do is we select the mesh, we go to its modifier, its rig, we go here, apply, then we right click it, parent, clear and keep transformation, delete the rig, and you're in the money, right? All good to then, you know, form the mesh around like you want to. That's it. Yeah, that was how to do that with the skeleton. I will also say, when doing this with the skeleton, another thing you can do is you can also, hold on, let me go back a bit further. There we go. You can also scale it up and down. You can select the whole skeleton, scale it like so, you know, if you want something funny or whatever. And that is in general going to be weirdly more precise than going in and scaling it like yourself, etc. Right? Scaling it in edit mode on one side to the other. Yeah, that's how to do that. Hope that made sense. Obviously, you'd still go in and edit this to fit. Yeah. Okay. The next step is we're going to give this mesh weights and a new diffuse and a lot of other things. And I'm going to show you how to do that because that's what this tutorial is about. I don't know why I said that. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go back on Toby Space. Again, link is in the description. Find a mesh that at least somewhat closely resembles your mesh. Now, if you have a really long, gorgeous dress, for example, here's my little secret. Go on GTA 5 mods, find someone who's already made weights for that dress, export it into Blender. Don't steal it, right? But just look at it as a reference. Look at how they did it. I swear to you, you're going to understand weights so much better when you see compared to your weights that are going all over the place versus this person's weights that are looking so beautiful, why everything's going wrong. If you don't know anything about weights or armatures and how all that stuff works, I've got other videos for other games. I explain it a little bit there, but I can also link some tutorials, I guess. So back at our beautiful Angie dress, we've got the mesh now, right? Apply rig, just like we did before, clear and keep transform, and delete this. Now we don't have, I'm going to call this Angie dress. Okay. So we have already changed the UV maps. It's important to remember to do that. Don't have any vertex groups for it right now. And we have this one diffuse texture, right? So you might be tempted to just go, oh, okay, so I just need to add this over. No, that's not how we do it. The body has only been there this whole time so that we have a reference for this dress. Now, this dress is actually not going to be a, you know, when you look in the options, you're not going to put this on the jackets. We're going to put this on the shirts. I mean, we could also put it on the jackets. That's up to us with what we want to do. I'm probably going to put it on the shirts. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to put it on the jackets. Anyway, that's not relevant. But yeah. Let me come back. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. All right, so same concept as before when we were importing the body. I grabbed the mesh, I grabbed the diffuse, and I grabbed the skeleton. Click on it, import external skeleton as well, import XML, and there she is, right? Beautiful, absolutely amazing. So here's what we do. Select your mesh, the new one, right? The one you just imported. This is the important one. I'm just going to go ahead and hide the female skeleton for now. Expand this so I can see better. There we go. Okay. Grab it. Hold Shift down. Select your other mesh. Go to Weight Paint. Transfer weights. Open this little thing up. Source layers. By name. And then smooth all groups. That's it. Now, we have this mesh now. And it has a ton of new weights to it. Excuse me, I just burped. And it's only going to apply, it's only going to apply, so let's say we had copied the weights from the female body here. It would have applied all of the vertex groups that this one has as well. So also every single little bone from the head and the hands, etc. And they would have just been empty. It doesn't cause any troubles. It's just unnecessary and can cause confusions. If you think this is a little bit too shocky, is that a good word? I don't know. That's not a word, is it? Anyway, I'll just go in smooth and then, oops. Oh, that didn't go smoothly. Get it? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, you can edit the smooth level like so. And you can also go in and, for example, I'm noticing, oh, why is there some weirdness here? Well, my dear friends, we could have done this before, but I wanted to process of elimination, right? Show you issues as they occur. So we have this weird line here, right? You might be thinking to yourself, is that just shade smooth? Like, what should I be doing? What is that? So those kind of seams, they don't really show a lot in games like Sims 4, but in a game like GTA 5, it's going to be pretty obvious. So what I do is I go into cleanup, merge by distance. It's going to remove some vertices, and then it looks a lot smoother. Sometimes you'll get some, a little bit of a shadow thing going on some places. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know why. I'm not formally trained. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't show very much in game, and I don't mind. So yeah. Anyway, go back, do the same thing again. Weight paint, transfer weights by name, smooth, all groups, and then I like to up the smoothness a little bit, like so. Hide this, and then let's have another look at her. Yeah. Now it's less, there's less weird pixelation going on with the smoothness. This is then when, sometimes when you transfer weights, there's just going to be sometimes weird mistakes happening. The more you kind of get comfortable with all of it, the more you get to know the way everything works, the more you'll be able to recognize these mistakes. Like sometimes randomly there's going to be like some paint up here on her left tit or some shit like that. I like to just go in and then fix it myself. Or if your mesh didn't really have, the same form, like you couldn't get it something that was super close to it, you'll then have to go in manually and edit that. All right, we have made it this far, so our mesh now has weights, but how do I test those weights, Druu? Excellent question. Now, we have our dress here. Now, as I said earlier, we keep our UV maps the same, and we don't touch this diffuse map. We don't touch the diffuse map of this thing, right? The reason we do that, we don't touch anything in that, and we keep these UV maps, etc., is I like to just join the two meshes together because that's the best way I found to preserve as much information and cause as little issues as possible. It's why I don't go in myself on the Solemn's tools and do my shader tools and find the ped one and all of that. It's just how I like to do things. I can't explain it any better. Anyway, so what I do is I select my Angie dress. I select, this part, invert selection, delete. I select my Angie dress. Sorry, I meant my original dress earlier. And I Control J, and then I combine them. Then I go back. I select this part, get rid of it, and boom. There we go. Now we have a mesh with, and we delete this original diffuse map. Now, obviously, the textures are wrong right now. We will go in and fix that in a minute. Don't worry about that. I'll show you all of the parts about texturing that you will need to know. But yeah, so we have our mesh. It has the correct Solemn's clothing material. It has the vertex groups it needs. It has the weights that it needs, etc. Blah, blah, blah. We have the UV maps we need. I'll show you the UV maps now. Don't worry, that's just a secondary UV map. Like so, this is the UV map. We'll do some editing in a bit when we do the texturing. So what do we do next? Now, one thing I like to do before I move on is I want to test my weights before I move on. The best way to do this is to have your female body, like so. And then drag it over here into the object. I just delete the original skeleton, right? Grab my object, look at the modifier, add the modifier to this skeleton, grab my skeleton, pose mode, and then I just grab a bone and I move her around. There's some very slight distortions. I mean, you gotta remember, we're literally reverse and ignore that with the head. I don't know why, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I'm also noticing I could make this a bit closer to the body. I'm gonna do that in a second, but yeah. So I like to watch out for things like this. Now, obviously, you're not gonna have a lot of animations that make you move like that, and most people wouldn't really, give a shit. Sometimes I like to be a perfectionist. Mostly what I'm looking out for is just, especially if I have something with the arms like this, right? If I move this arm, does any of my dress move up with it? If I am, let's say we're moving our knee, is any of my dress randomly just gonna start moving? You've probably seen this before if you play FiveM, you're running around and for some reason a tiny part of your upper body's shirt is moving with you for some reason. You don't really know why. Well, it's because the weight paints are wrong. Anyway, so we've got that going for us. Just hide this. Oh, wait, no, don't hide that. But yeah, go ahead and save. Now we move on to UV editing, texturing, and then we'll talk about LODs. So, texturing. I'm gonna just grab one of the original textures I have exported and open it up in Adobe Photoshop CS3. And I am going to also, I don't know, let's use this one. This is just a reference of one of my previous meshes I did, just because I know this texture works. Okay, so this is the original Sims 4 texture. Obviously, it's, so the way Sims 4 textures work is they're all on the same plane. So all of your textures, like, for example, if someone had their, like, accessories or something on their character as well, they would then be loaded somewhere around here. That's just how they do it. We don't really care. We're just gonna Control X, grab that. The image size. So there's specific image sizes that work the best for GTA 5. I believe it's 248 and 2 something. I forgot. Your standard texture sizes. I just don't remember right now. I'm very sorry about that. But yeah, this is the one I'm using. You can also, if you want, you can just use the, like, let's say this one, for example. I could just go directly in here, open this one up, and then, just paste this, paste it over it. Actually, this I can also check. So sometimes the textures, because GTA 5 is quite an old game now, are very, very small. You shouldn't be making 4K textures. It's not worth it. It's not going to look that much better in my opinion, and it's just going to slow performance down. So no need to do that. Anyway, let me quickly clean this up and make this all black. Yep, perfect. Okay, add a new layer and Control V our texture onto this thing, and then we just drag it into the correct size, like so. Merge down, save as. I gotta find my folder real quick. Project, NG dress. Yes. NG diff 1. And it's gonna ask me what type of DTS I want this to be. I want this to be a DTX 1. It has no alpha. If this had skin to it, which I'm also gonna look to explain in a second, hopefully at the end of the video. Yeah. So just save that like that. Go in to our texture. This is what the textures look like when they're using the Solemn shaders. Don't mess with anything here, honestly, except for this diffuse file. Load this up, and now we have our texture. Obviously, the UV is all over the place, and our normal map is all over the place. So what we do is we go in, we find our texture. Where is she? Right here. just press A, grab your entire UV map, use transform, and then drag her like your grandma was dragged or something. I don't know, funny reference. And just drag her into the shape that we want, roughly. Now, zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna raise this just the tiniest amount, like so. Put this down the tiniest amount. There we go. And boom, now you have a texture that fits the red dress completely. The red ruffles, that's with the normal maps. We're gonna go in and make a normal map right now. So, to make a normal map, what I do is I go into my Photoshop again. I save the diffuse texture I just made. I save it as ng norm png. Then I open up Materialize. Now you could also, if you have a program that allows you to have a normal map filter, you could just do this. Personally, I don't like these normal map filters. Not only do they look ugly, which I don't like, but they also, I find the texture becomes too, it sounds weird to say, too noisy. There's too much going on, basically. I don't like it, which is why I prefer to use Materialize. Now, Materialize could create a shit ton of different textures for us, just based on, let's say we have just got a normal map, it can do a lot of stuff for us. Or if we just have a diffuse map, it can do a lot for us. So go file format, PNG, find diffuse map, open, find your folder where you saved your PNG. Here we go. Press height map. We gotta create a height map first. I like to put this on details, set as height map, and we can create a normal map. There we have our normal map, and then I like to play around with these settings until I find one that looks nice. I like the default one for this. Set normal map, press save, save as ng norm, select, and hold on, where is she? There she is. Okay, so we've got our normal map now. Let's open that up. Yep, update that. All right, here we go. Oh, actually, go back. Before we do anything, let me just save this as ng spec. I will explain how to make a specular map in just a second. Okay, open up this. One thing to note when you make normal maps with Materialize is you got to go into channels, go into the blue channel, set your color to white, grab your brush, and just delete everything. It needs to be, the blue part needs to be completely white. I found, I don't know why. Listen, I don't know why anything is the way it is. I just do things, you know? Save it as a DDS. No alpha, we don't have an alpha channel. And then we go back in. We could do this part in the layering, in the shading tab as well, but I just prefer to do it over here in this tab. So I go into my material. Oops, sorry. I find Solemns, expand Solemns, texture parameters. So the diffuse sampler is set already. So then we go our bump sampler, which is our normal map. We find our normal map for the correct thing. Sorry, I just realized I had the wrong body part selected. That's my bad. Okay. We find, I had the body selected, sorry, not the dress, which I needed. Okay. And select the normal map, and there we go. Already, the normal map looks perfect. Now, we can see a little bit of weirdness here. That's the specular map, which we're gonna fix next. The specular map we fix by... Need to save. So what I do for my specular map is... I found this image a while back on a different tutorial. It is made by someone named Alex189. I don't know who he is, but he is my guardian angel, or she, I don't know, or they. Girls day and day, you know. Love you. Sorry, anyway. Yeah, no, this is an amazing reference guide. It's got everything you need to know how to make your specular form. Now, for my skirt, my dress, we're just gonna use this color right here. This is the one I usually find has the best results. Okay, so we go in, adjustments, black and white it. I just black and white it because I find that it gives me the best results. Use my bucket here with the color that I've just sampled. Paste that down, normal, overlay it, and you've got your specular map. Save it as a spec in DDS format. If we had a skin texture on this, as I said, I'll go over this. This process would be a little bit different, but we'll get to that. I'll show you examples, don't you worry. Okay. All right, time to add our specular map to this dress. Here she is in the spec DDS. And there you go. Isn't she beautiful? Isn't she lovely? I think so. Okay, now that's all settled and done. There's a couple more things we need to do. So we've tested the weights. We have made our textures. What are we missing, guys? LODs and something I didn't mention before, Vertex paints. Vertex paints are your bread and butter. If you don't do your Vertex paint correctly, I'll link to a video that was my guardian angel. So lovely, so easy to understand on this matter. But yeah, if you don't have your Vertex paint set up correctly, your mesh is going to move weirdly. It's going to distort like the wind is blowing against it, etc. So yeah, let's go and do that first. All right. So, Vertex paint. Sorry, I got hiccups. Oh my god. To see your Vertex paints, you need to go into color attributes right here. And we just delete these. Easy as pie, right? And then we make our own color attributes, which need to look like this. Okay, first things, spell color, spell it the British way with a U, 0. Domain, face corner, data type, byte color, and color, go to hex, F000. Nope, I wrote that wrong. Is it FF8002? Okay, I gotta double check that. Give me a minute. Yes, it is FF8000 with alpha all the way up. Shout out to, what's her name? Quixotic, who made this wonderful tutorial for that. I will be linking this in the description. She also explains how to make emissive, which means it will like light up during the night, which is really, really nice if you have like a cyberpunk thing going on, which I do oftentimes. So let's say I wanted these buttons to be light up, I would do an emissive color on them. She explains it. It's really easy to do, so don't worry about it. And the second one will be same thing again, color, but with a 1 this time. Face corner, byte color, like so. And you make your color be 000 and put your alpha all the way down and press OK.
Data type byte color. Slide this alpha all the way to 0.
I just copied how she said that.
Because
I recommend watching the video because she explains a bit more in depth about why we do these things. But in general, all you need to know is that this is so... I forgot which one of these it is. One of them is for making so that sweat appears correctly on the mesh. And one of them is for wind and stuff. So technically, if we had like something that could kind of move in the wind, we could paint it differently. But I personally think it looks goofy, so I don't do it. That's our vertex colors. Okay, we have done our vertex paints, we have done our weights, we've done our UV maps, our textures, everything should be in order. Now all we need to do is our LODs and probably something else that I'm forgetting, and I'll remember before we are done. Sorry about that. So the way I do my LODs is honestly not that well optimized, but it works for me. So if you scroll down when you have your data selected and go down to Solemn's LODs, you can also just, what button is it? Shift V. You can also switch between them pretty easily. Oops. Okay, let's switch that back. don't expose the fact that the body doesn't have LODs. Right. Where was I? Oh, right. So all I do is copy LODs. Okay. I delete them. I delete these other two here. Select the high one. Copy LODs. Boom. Now they do have the wrong name. I haven't found a way to fix that. It doesn't really matter to my knowledge. What I then do is I go into edit mode on the medium one, and I select all of my mesh by pressing A, clean up, and then either decimate geometry or degenerate dissolve. It depends on yeah, it's obviously not working with that one. Sometimes it works better with that one, sometimes it doesn't. Decimate geometry is probably going to be a better bet. So with decimate geometry, obviously this is your full mesh right here, and then you can just turn it down. This one has a lot of vertex and polygons and all that good stuff, so I'm going to turn it quite low. What I try to always aim for is one where it doesn't have holes. So yeah, and we repeat that process on the low one as well. Now what I like to do is I like to copy the medium one over to the low one, just because that means I have a better starting point already. So once again, decimate geometry. And, you know, kind of make it look like a Picasso dress. Like so. Wow, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she lovely? I would preview this real quick in the textured version, but I'm afraid I'm gonna get banned off YouTube, so we can't do that. Anyway, as I said, you can go in and kind of make this look a lot better and with a lot of face orientation and all that, but yeah. I'm gonna grab the mesh, grab it, delete it. We don't need that. So even it doesn't matter if you're exporting this as a shirt, if you're exporting it as in our case, it's gonna be a jacket. It does not matter unless it is footwear, so shoes, or leg wear, pants, skirts, those sort of things. In those cases, that's why almost every skirt and pair of pants you're going to download from somewhere is going to be in a shirt category instead. Because if you don't do it like that, you're going to need to export with your mesh the proper leg or the proper feet. I can show you a pair of shoes I did a while back. To give you kind of an example of what that looks like. And you also need to take that into account when dealing with the textures, which again, as I said, I'll show you after I'm done with the export. But in our case, that doesn't matter because this is going to be a jacket. Now, I deleted the the body, because this is our setup for our export. Keep the skeleton like so. We have our embedded textures correctly set up. They should export correctly, but if they don't, I will, of course, you know, go back and explain why that didn't happen the way we thought it did or whatever. I'm just gonna make a folder here, call it GTA5 Angie. Oh, Angia, yeah, that makes sense as well, Angie. All right. So yeah, we're gonna export into that, and I'm trying really hard to think about if I miss something. Usually when I'm doing this, I always realize, oops, I forgot to do the vertex color. Oops, I forgot to do this. And I come back to it. That's probably what you're going to come into as well. That's just how it is. That's the nature of this kind of thing. All right, press A to select everything. Save your project. Export, CodeWalker, XML. Go find your project folder, right? These are my export settings. This is what works for me. Beautiful. Export CodeWalker. Gotta have this open. And that happened correctly. If it gives you an error, always press that little bubble there and look at the error, because you'll usually be able to figure out what went wrong based on that. Usually, in my case, what went wrong was a problem with the skeleton or a file structure or a missing something, you know. But yeah, if you did what I did, shouldn't happen to you. So anyway, so we've got our, yeah, we can see here our textures, our embedded textures are the correct ones. We're gonna find the dress. So this is the file we used, which is why it has the same name and all that. It was the dress we joined together with our dress to make it look how it did. I'm going to quickly find my project file, ng, like so, and copy that over here. Same thing with our YTD. Perfect. All right. So this diffuse texture is obviously the wrong one, but we're just going to go over to this, grab our diffuse texture, put that in here, rename it to this. Now, one thing to note, if we want multiple textures, obviously, which we do, the way we do that is just go new YTD file and then go like, just copy this name, put it in, and then just go C, and then add the texture like this, and then call this C as well, and then refresh. And then there you go. You've got your C file, your B file, and then you can obviously mix and match, you know, like so, and then you go in. Yeah, okay. So as you saw that, the easiest way to get a YTD with your texture is just drag and drop it into a specific, you know, folder in your mods. I have mine called my meshes, and then, you know, I just give it a folder, drag this in here, and it will then show with this image that you made. You can freely change the names in here. So like I can just drag this in, and now I have an A, B, and C one. And then I can drag and drop my YDD, which will then have my embedded textures. Now, if it doesn't show up here, or like, let's say parts of it doesn't show up, this is the closest you'll get to a preview of what it will be like in-game. So if there's like an issue here at this point, it'll probably look like that in-game as well. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, usually it does. So yeah, this is like your first troubleshooting issue stage, whatever. Usually if it doesn't import correctly, it's because you did something wrong with the Solemn's shaders. Yep. All right, and now you might be asking yourself, okay, that's great. How do I then get this to be a file that I hand out to people? You already do. So let's say usually when you download a, let's say you download a dress from GTA 5 mods, what you will get is you'll get a YDD and matching YTDs. Now, I'm just going to quickly explain this because Lord knows some people don't know it. I use the Durty Cloth Tool app. I have the unlicensed version, which is just a free version. It's a bit restrictive, but it's great if you're just someone who's wanting to test stuff. I really recommend getting the license. Honestly, if you have 10 euros to spare a month, I would do it. It comes with a ton of cool features. And yeah. Anyway, I already added this earlier because I was testing something. Now, the unlicensed version allows, I don't know if I should say this because what if it's a bug? But anyway, it allows you to like preview one clothing mesh before you have to restart the tool to be able to do it again. But yeah, this way I can preview it. I believe if I had the licensed versions, I could also then test here an animation, maybe? Yeah, animation. If I had the licensed version, I could do that, which would basically allow me to be able to, it would allow me to, oh my god, test weights and all that beforehand. Like without having to load this up into the game. But I prefer to just test mine on my testing server of my own because that way I'm very certain about it. Okay, so this is an example of a pair of shoes that I did. I think they are very lovely. I think they turned out really nice. So with this specific mesh, as you can see, we are including the lower, the feet, right? Now, if we re-import just a base lower mesh, you can see that there's no seams here. They fit on perfectly. I tested this as well with the, moving the skeleton around and all that. It should be just fine. But yeah. So this is how it needs to be included for shoes. When we do, can I show it here? Yeah. So this is what it would look like if I'm doing a pair of pants. There you need to also include this part. Otherwise you have like a part of your pants where there's going to be a huge gap and there's going to be no shoe. Nothing for the shoe to connect to, basically. Yeah. The only thing really to keep in mind here when you have a part of the body that you are including is A, make sure it fits onto the the default nude shoes, for example, without any gaps. I would look out for that. And the only other thing to really pay mind to is the texture. So let's go and have a look at a texture for a mesh that includes a body part. Okay, so for a shoe, again, just an example, this is roughly what it would look like. You would have the skin texture over here or whatever, and you'd have the actual mesh over here. You'd have no alpha layer on the diffuse. This I'm still messing a little bit with. I'm not too sure how this works exactly. I'm not an expert, as I say. For the normal map, same as always, but the specular map is then where you need to do some finessing. So for a specular map, not only do you need to have this bright pink part on a spec, which will you'll see in that reference image that I showcased earlier. Let me just bring it up again. Where you can see like normal skin, dark skin, medium skin. I'm still testing all of this because I found that as long as when I use Durty Cloth tool, there's a thing I can click where it says has skin tone data. As I said, still testing it, but it seems to do it for me. I don't get it. I'll write a comment if I figure it out. I'm new to this. Anyway, yeah. So additionally, obviously, you give them different colors, and then in the specular file, you need to have an alpha channel. This alpha channel needs to have the part where the skin goes be black, and the part where everything else goes be white. That can be a little bit rough sometimes, and can also be just, really simple. Anyway, I think that's it for now. If I find out more, I'll film more. Yeah, bye. Okay, editing Druu here. I just realized I just stopped filming at the end. I didn't really say anything at all, so let me just do some finishing words. Honestly, I think with everything that I've recorded and everything I explained, you should be completely capable of making at least something that you can import so you can test and try things out. One thing I will mention, I know it got a little bit confusing because of the fact that I'm using a female edited body that isn't done, by the way. I'm still working on it because it's really difficult. I recommend you just format your clothes so they fit onto the GTA 5 base body, because that way you have the most compatibility. So yeah, apologies for that confusion, but I mean, I'm doing this. This is, I'm doing it for myself. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and make something I wouldn't use. About the last part here with the skin stuff. So a small correction: when you make textures for skin meshes, so meshes that have skin on it, you need to watch the specific texture on the specular. Look at other textures that have that as a reference, and also make sure that they are not bigger than 512 x 512. Also, I included the correction that I was using the wrong texture size, but oh lord, the things we learn in very short times, right? But yeah, I hope I have covered everything you need to know. If you have a question, anything like that, feel free to leave me a comment. I can't promise that I can help you, but I'll try my best. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helped.